21 Chapter 21 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Edward, come here. We have controlled an LV-11 magical beast. We are trying our best to lure it to your side. Fuck. This magical beast is so powerful. Even 20 of us, our LV-9 can't resist it. Hold on, hold on. The second squad is coming soon. Support is right behind us. Don't relax. Try your best to bring the magical beast to Edward. Don't worry. Take your time. We are attacking the magical beast of LV-13. We still need some time. No problem. We can support it. Just focus on your work. Team 1 and Team 2 are both holding back the magical beast. Edward, we have found a relic here. We need to explore it in groups, and it is likely that a level D treasure box will burst out. Now the 3 teams have entered, and the location is on the plain in the southeast of Green Hand Village. Team 4, I saw 2 magical beasts of LV-11 heading to your side just now. Please be careful. We will arrive soon. The Green Hand Village channel was always refreshing, but all the people above LV-9 spontaneously formed a team to help Edward hunt the magical beasts. Although those who didn't reach LV-9 couldn't help much, they spontaneously formed a logistics team, using all kinds of methods to make a fire to cook food, and provide it to the team members hunting the magical beasts. In the past 3 days, Edward's grade improved like a rocket, and there were only 3,000 experience points for him to reach LV-13. As for number 1002546 Green Hand Village, there was no such atmosphere as number 1002548 Green Hand Village. Mundo was fighting alone there, while the rest of the people were watching on the channel. Although they cheered, no one was willing to give up their time to help Mundo kill the magical beasts. Perhaps for the people of number 1002546 Green Hand Village, this battle was only about Mundo and his partners. It had nothing to do with them. It was okay for them to cheer, but it was impossible for them to really do something to help. However, the werewolf Mundo and his 2 companions were indeed strong. Even if they fought alone, their level didn't fall at all. Mundo's grade was the highest. At this time, he had reached LV-13, 13,000/15,000, and his 2 companions were also at LV-12. However, although the gap between them was still there, it was not so obvious. With the help of all people of number 1002548 Green Hand Village, Edward, and the others were also getting higher and higher. But now, only 3 days had passed. As time went by, no matter how strong Mundo and the other 2 were, there was still a limit. In the end, they would definitely be caught up by Edward and the others. The joyful atmosphere spread among the crowd. Everyone became more and more energetic. Under the guidance of the dawn of victory, although they were tired every day, it was worth it. But there was also something that everyone hadn't expected. Although Edward, Auric, and Jax had improved their grade very fast, there was still one who had also quietly raised his grade to LV-12. Lowly, the man who had occupied the 5th place in the ranking list for a long time, had an unexpected encounter. Within 3 days, his level rose rapidly, and he even awakened a special profession, Thunder Manipulator. There were even rumors that when Lely was hunting the magical beasts alone, according to the witness's description, under the attack of Lely, the magical beast didn't even have much chance to fight back. Edward and others had also sent someone to invite Lely, hoping he could join their team. If they worked together to kill the magical beasts, their level would be promoted to a higher level, but Lely refused. I'm sorry. I don't like to do it with others. I have my own things to do, so I can't kill the magical beasts with you. But don't worry. If there is any need, I won't refuse. This tough man was so determined to refuse, leaving no chance for others to persuade him at all. However, the 3 people who had been placed high hopes on didn't have any antipathy to Lely's attitude. Everyone had a secret that they couldn't tell, and they didn't want to ask about it. After all, this was a big deal that related to the resources and personal properties of the whole Green Hand village. The final winner would be decided by strength. If Lully was really stronger than them, they didn't mind giving up the position of the fighters. Edward has invited Dick again after he asked Dick to join them last time without any result. However, Dick's reply made Edward feel both funny and annoying. I don't want to join you not only because I don't want to act with others, but also because I'm afraid that it will hurt your self-esteem if I act with you. In order to maintain your fighting spirit, I'd better not follow you to frustrate your self-confidence. Dick said. At this moment, Dick was eating roasted meat in the fog forest. In the past 3 days, he had been hunting the magical beasts all the time, even with the supplement of cooked food. At this moment, his experience had almost reached its limit, so he had to stop and have a rest. Visual mutation talent gave him a unique advantage. He could still kill the magical beasts at night. That's why he didn't lag behind Edward and others in speed. Have they already been upgraded to LV-12? Their speed is not bad, but they still can't catch up with Mundo. That guy's werewolf bloodline is definitely not that simple. Dick looked at Mundo in number 1002546 Green Hand Village showing off his achievements, he said to himself. Although there are only 3 of them, it's definitely not that easy to catch up with them. Even if they can catch up with their level, can it really decide everything? His current data was far better than that of his counterparts. For the experience point released by Mundo, he didn't think it could be used as a standard for strength assessment. After all, Mundo only announced his level and experience point. There was no clear information about his talent and data. After swallowing the last bite of the roast meat, Dick carefully trampled out the flames that had just risen from the roast meat and covered it with a layer of soil. The deeper he went into the forest, the higher the level of the magical beasts were, and the smarter they were. Because of his crazy killing in the past few days, these magical beasts were somewhat sensitive. Once they found any trace that didn't belong to the magical beasts, they would quickly escape. And those not afraid of it were the magical beasts that Dick couldn't deal with at all. Therefore, in order to increase the efficiency of the upgrade, Dick couldn't leave any clues. 22 Chapter 22 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dick nimbly climbed up the tree and jumped on it. He moved a few hundred meters to the periphery of the fog forest. At this position, even if there was a sneak attack from the magical beast, it could not cause him fatal injury. Dick carefully stuck himself between the branches and closed his eyes. Soon he fell asleep. In his dream, he seemed to be in a mysterious garden, surrounded by the fragrance of countless flowers, like countless invisible hands caressing his face, or like the voice of a woman, whispering in his ears. He just felt itchy and comfortable, which made him groan involuntarily. The sweet fragrance surrounded his nose as if it was the best smell in the world, which made him want to smell more. Dick suddenly opened his eyes. Although he felt very comfortable in this dream, he woke up by his own will. No, this fragrance couldn't be so simple. When he came to this position, he didn't smell such a strong fragrance, but now in his dream, there was a real fragrance. Such an abnormal thing must be a trap. In this fog forest, there were many magic skills to lure their prey with their fragrance. When Dick woke up, he found that his body had moved down a few meters along the tree and was about to reach the ground. But the strange fragrance disappeared at this moment. Was it really just an illusion? Such authentic, even in his dream, he could smell it actually. Could the magical beast create bait in other people's dreams? Dick's clothes were soaked in a cold sweat. He leaned against a tree trunk and didn't dare to move. He listened carefully to the surroundings as if he had been frozen. However, the expected attack did not appear, and there was even no trace of a magical beast around. Only unknown insects were quietly chirping. In the last 1 hour, Dick kept this strange posture. He was almost numb, but the owner of the fragrance still didn't show up. Dick frowned. He couldn't wait any longer. He turned over hard and went back to the tree trunk again. This time, Dick simply moved 2,000 meters to the periphery of the fog forest. This was the edge of the fog forest. Even if the magical beast wanted to eat him again, it would not run to this edge, would it? He found a hole in the tree, stuffed his body in, and cut some vines to seal the entrance of the hole. In this way, even if the magical beasts wanted to attack him, they would be blocked by the refined vine. As long as there was any sound, he would be able to perceive it. After sealed, Dick took out the roasted meat from his backpack and took a few bites. He felt sleepy and tired. After a long yawn, with a comfortable posture, Dick fell asleep again. In his dream, the fragrance appeared again, but this time it came aggressively. The strong fragrance wrapped Dick, making his body involuntarily jump up. His pores seemed to open all over his body, and the fragrance he was cheered up by the arrival of this fragrance. Oh! This was such a wonderful feeling. Even if he were to ascend to heaven now, he might not be as relaxed as the fragrance now. Dick praised in his dream. Of course, he didn't know that it was a dream. He subconsciously thought that he had arrived at heaven. He ran in a garden, breathing the sweet fragrance as much as he could, rolling in the flowers wantonly, making his body stick to the fragrance of petals. What challenging gambler! Hunting the magical beasts. Upgrade. It didn't matter at all. As long as I have this fragrance, it's enough. Sink here. Even if it's just a dream, it's also the best dream in the world. Dick shouted. The blue sky seemed to be responding to his words. The changeable clouds took on all kinds of wonderful shapes. All of a sudden, Dick felt a great sense of threat. He looked around in confusion, only to find that there was nothing that could threaten him. He was still in that large patch of flowers and did not move. But the feeling of danger was getting closer and closer. Dick felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows as if something was right in front of him. Dream. Was it a dream? Dick finally realized. He waved his arms and legs, trying to disperse the monster in his dream. However, no matter how hard he struggled, the sense of threat always lingered around his body, like an invisible giant hand, pinching his body and squeezing inward hard, breaking his bones. No! Dick roared. The sea of flowers beneath his feet began to boil. The sweet fragrance, like a fire, burned his heart and lung. The blue sky had turned gray as if countless pairs of eyes had grown out of the sky and cast a silent threat to him. Twisted clouds fell from the sky and twined around his limbs. They were ethereal, but he couldn't break free. A sharp pain came from his body. Dick couldn't help letting out a painful groan. He lowered his head and saw a beautiful flower blossoming on his shoulder. It was a beautiful rose, but it was shining with the color of blood. The sharp pain spread all over his body along with the place where the rose bloomed as if the rose's thorns were flowing along his blood vessels, trying to suck out all the blood in his body. The world began to collapse. The sky, the white clouds, or the beautiful flowers before, they were like a broken mirror, and all the images were fading away. He finally woke up from his dream. It was dark around him, but with his talent, Dick could clearly see the scene in front of him. This was no longer the edge of the fog forest he had stayed before, but a darker forest. In front of him was a fat magical beast, with a huge mouth, like a toad. Its purplish-red eyes were fixed on his body, and a long tongue was stuck into his shoulder. 23 Chapter 23 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Dick open his eyes, the toad's fat eyes lit up with excitement. It seemed to enjoy this feeling very much. From its big mouth, it made strange sounds as if it was laughing. Dick saw that his condition was rapidly falling. Although the toad's poison did not affect him because of his anti-poison, his blood vitality was still a sharp decrease. At this moment, it had fallen by almost half, and his energy had also lost about 100. Eyes of God sent the information of the magical beast in time. Magical beast. Three-eyed toad, level. LV11, blood vitality. 700/700, energy. 300, strength 100, defense 200, agility 20. Talent. Dreamy illusion. The explosive rate. 1%. It was a magical beast of LV11. It was one level higher than Dick. Although the strength, defense, and agility were not very high, it was actually a magical beast with talent. No wonder it could invade Dick's dream without being noticed. It manipulated Dick's body and made him come to this dark forest unconsciously. It was not until the three-eyed toad waved its hands and danced that Dick noticed that his whole body was covered with a layer of mucus. The powerful mucus made his limbs tightly stick together and unable to move at all. Seeing that his blood vitality and energy were fading away, Dick knew that if he didn't do anything else, he would probably die here. Fire. Controlling talent activated. Dick's body was immediately wrapped in a ball of raging flames. The mucus was immediately evaporated dry by the flames and turned into a hard shell. The three-eyed toad didn't expect that the human being, who had been controlled by it, could make such a counterattack. It was shocked and withdrew his tongue from Dick's shoulder. Its fat body turned over and landed 10 meters away from Dick. It carefully observed Dick. Dick struggled hard and broke the hard shell around his limbs. Although there was still some mucus attached to the surface of his body, it could no longer affect his movements. Blood vitality. 420/920, energy. 110/450. As the tongue of the three-eyed toad drew away from Dick's body, the properties of Dick finally stopped falling. As long as he reacted a little slower, the consequences would be unimaginable. Taking a deep breath, Dick pulled out the giant bear's blade. The three-eyed toad should have lived until now with this sinister technique. If it fought with Dick straightly, it wouldn't be his match. According to its value, even if Dick was not in the best state, he could still challenge someone who was above his level. The three-eyed toad seemed to have known that too. The human in front of him was not easy to deal with. It let out a strange scream, and a bright red tongue came out of its mouth. It rushed towards Dick. Dick only saw a blurry red shadow. The speed of the three-eyed toad's tongue was far beyond his imagination. Even though he had used the giant bear's blade to resist it, it still left a scar on his cheek. Immune to poison. Dick breathed a sigh of relief. Who knew how strong the poison of the three-eyed toad was? If it wasn't for the effect of anti-poison, the three-eyed toad would have escaped. After the three-eyed toad retracted its tongue, its four limbs flicked on the ground, and its fat body rolled into the forest like a ball. Sure enough, it was ready to escape. But Dick wouldn't let it go so easily. It would be impossible to guard against such a strange thing if it targeted him. He'd better deal with the toad as soon as possible to be safe. Touching the ground with his tiptoe, Dick chased the toad and rushed into the dark forest. The giant bear's blade opened a road in the forest. Although the toad's rolling speed was not slow, it was still at a disadvantage compared to Dick. In less than 2 minutes, Dick had already arrived behind the three-eyed toad. He raised the giant bear's blade high, preparing to cut it in half. As the evil wind blew, the round body of the three-eyed toad seemed to roll faster. Although it did not escape Dick's attack, it still slowed down Dick's attack. Just as the giant bear's blade was about to fall, the three-eyed toad turned its head. Dick clearly saw a red eye on the toad's forehead, which he didn't see at the beginning. Dick was overwhelmed by a great sense of crisis. Regardless of anything else, he quickly released the giant bear's blade and jumped aside with all his strength. Red light spurted out and illuminated the dark forest in a blink of an eye. The bloody red energy almost blinded people's eyes. Dick's body was lying on the ground. He didn't dare to lift it up. He could feel the heat on his back. As long as he touched it, he would turn into blood. Only now did he know why this three-eyed toad was called three-eyed. It turned out that this third eye would only appear and it launched a direct attack with its talent. This also taught Dick a lesson. He couldn't underestimate his opponents even if their battle value was not as good as his. Eyes of God talent can bring the information of the opponent and show its talent. Even so, you can't rely too much on this information and ignore its use in actual combat. The bloody red light only lasted for a few seconds before it disappeared. Dick bounced up from the ground, pulled out the giant bear's blade inserted on the side, and in a few ups and downs, he came to the side of the three-eyed toad that hadn't run far. The three eyes of the three-eyed toad emitted a terrifying light at the same time. Obviously, it did not expect that there would be a human that could survive under its talent. In a hurry, there was a red light flashing in the third eye on its forehead. It wanted to activate its talent again at such a short distance. But Dick wouldn't give it a chance this time. Dick slashed out the giant bear's blade horizontally and cut open the eyes on the toad's forehead before the three-eyed toad used its talent. Then, the giant bear's blade slashed down from above and divided the three-eyed toad's body into two parts. White energy rose from the body of the three-eyed toad and slowly integrated into Dick's body. Immediately, it injected a new force into Dick's weak body. He sat on the ground, gasping for breath. The three-eyed toads could be said to be the strongest and the weirdest one he had encountered since he hunted the magical beasts. However, the position where the three-eyed toad appeared was only in the middle of the fog forest. 24 Chapter 24 You are listening at novelfull.audio. After gasping for a while, Dick took out the roasted meat and ate a few more bites. Seeing that he had almost recovered, he walked up to the three-eyed toad. The three-eyed toad, which was divided into two parts by him, was bleeding burgundy blood, and even caused a large hole to appear on the ground. Within a few minutes of its death, the toad's corpse had turned into a pool of thick water. It seemed that even his real body would not be able to withstand the strong poison in its blood after he died. Dick thought about taking out the can from his backpack which was used to store the poison water he had made. He carefully activated the poison-making talent and guided the poison water of the three-eyed toad into the can. In an instant, Dick even felt that countless ghosts flew up from the bottle and let out shrill cries, which shook his heart and made him want to cover his ears subconsciously. He quickly controlled his mind, trying hard to cover his ears and cover the can with his hands. Only then did he realize that within the few seconds, the fragrance had spread around him, and the towering trees around him had become broken under the attack of the poison. At this moment, accompanied by the breeze in the forest, the tree was actually turning into ashes bit by bit. System, plunder. Plundering. Plunder succeeded. Congratulations to you for obtaining the level C talent. Dreamy illusion. Dreamy illusion. It can be activated by a person who is in sleep, causing a specific phantom to appear in his dream and controlling his movements to a certain extent. Congratulations on acquiring the talent Illusory Shock. Skill description. Condense an illusion to shoot from the eyes, causing the illusion to all the units on the path, and force them into the illusion. The duration. 10 seconds. Time of cooling. 5 minutes. Happiness sometimes came so suddenly. The magical beast of LV11 not only brought Dick a lot of experience but also brought Dick talent and skill. Although he didn't know how much damage this skill could do, the 10-second forcible illusion time was definitely a super-powerful killing machine. Moreover, the person who initiated this talent didn't have to be a human, so it could also launch the magical beasts. And no matter how powerful the magical beast was, it still had to sleep. With this talent, Dick could actually achieve that by hunting the magical beasts without being injured. Of course, he couldn't afford to offend the magical beast, who was too powerful. After all, his talent level was only C, and Dick didn't allow him to cross too many levels to create illusions. However, this was enough. Just now, after killing the three-eyed toad, a level D treasure box had exploded. Open the treasure chest. Dick said excitedly, rubbing his hands. Looking at the treasure box, he slowly opened it in front of him. After a flash of white light, a thin leather armor appeared in his hand. Poison-soaked armor. It's made of the skin of the three-eyed toad. It's highly toxic and will be hurt by the venom after being attacked. Hint. It can be combined with other defensive equipment. The venom counterattack was only limited to the direct attack of the opponent. Defense plus 20. Dick's eyes widened. He didn't expect such a good thing to be exposed. Although the rebound effect of the venom could only be produced when the opponent's body directly touched the leather armor, it was enough to be abnormal as a product. Moreover, the armor could be used together with other defensive equipment, and the effect would definitely double. Then Dick put on the poison-soaked armor. After he got dressed, the armor wriggled and disappeared on the surface of his clothes. That was nice. In this way, it would take others by surprise. Dick was overjoyed. He tidied up his clothes and was about to leave. This place was 100 meters around and had already been turned into a life-forbidden zone by the three-eyed toad and the poison water he had just refined. It was likely that no living creature would be able to grow here for a long time. After thinking for a while, Dick finally decided to continue walking towards the dark forest. Although it was in the middle of the fog forest, Dick was not afraid. At his speed, the magical beasts couldn't catch up with him unless he met the magical beast with special talent. Moreover, even if he encountered some high-grade magical beasts, there was still a can of poisonous water in his backpack. If they really fought, it was hard to say who would be killed. And Dick was more curious about where the three-eyed toad wanted to escape. During its escape, the three-eyed toad's escape route had always been firm, and it didn't seem to panic at all. This gave Dick an idea. Maybe the three-eyed toad actually has a special shelter in the forest. Following the direction of the three-eyed toad, Dick walked through a rugged canyon, which was filled with disgusting poisonous insects and grass. If it weren't for Dick's anti-poison, anyone else would have been killed here. When they walked out of the canyon, Dick's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but open his mouth in surprise. Different from the darkness in the forest and the darkness in the canyon before, it was open grassland. The moonlight shone from the sky, making it look like a fairyland in fairy tales. In the center of the grassland, there was a huge tree, whose branches and leaves were thick and green. It was completely different from the depressed tree in the fog forest. It was a pure breath of life. Just by breathing the air it released, Dick could feel that his blood vitality and energy, which had not yet fully recovered, were rapidly recovering. He didn't expect that the three-eyed toad, whose body was full of poison, could even find such a treasure place as a nest. Dick was amazed and looked at the huge tree with the eyes of God. Ancient tree of life. A tree that has lived in the fog forest for tens of thousands of years. It can absorb the energy of the sun and moon and bear the breath of life. The eyes of God can only see the introduction of this ancient tree. As for the specific function, perhaps only when the branches and leaves of the tree are removed can I be able to identify it. At this moment, an extremely weak light flashed through Dick's eyes. He suddenly turned his head and saw a small crooked tree growing at the edge of the ancient life tree. This small tree was not even as tall as Dick, but there was a purple fruit, the size which was as the head of a human hanging on the thin branch. 25 Chapter 25 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Eyes of God talent activated. The information on the purple fruit is also displayed in front of Dick. Divine blood fruit. It is produced by the ancient tree of life. Grade LV2. Function. After taking it, there is a 0.1% chance of turning 0.1% of the blood into divine blood. God. Was there really a God in this world? If so, what kind of power should it be? Dick opened his mouth wide. He did not believe that there was a God in this world, but the eyes of God would not lie. In other words, they could all be transferred to this magical world of killing. It seemed that there was God in this world, and this matter was not so strange. While thinking, Dick strode to the purple fruit and grabbed it. The icy touch gave Dick a great shock. He seemed to be in a magnificent sacred palace, looking up at the towering castle and receiving the divine light from the 100,000 feet sky. It was a power that made people unable to resist at all. In the sacred palace, it was as if there were countless pairs of invisible eyes, like the loving eyes of the world. Tears welled up in his eyes. It was the mercy of God for human beings and a gift from God for the world. After a long time, Dick finally came to his senses. He didn't even know when he shed tears. But at the same time, he was surprised to find that his energy had increased a little, even the experience points were increased. Dick's heart was filled with passion. It was just a touch, but it had such a great effect. What if he took this divine blood fruit? What benefits would he get? Thinking of this, Dick plucked the divine blood fruit without hesitation. The moment the fruit left the tree trunk, the crooked tree trunk turned into dust, and an even stronger purple light erupted from the divine blood fruit. Dick took a deep breath, opened his mouth, and took a bite. It was strange. Although he only took a bite, the whole divine blood fruit seemed to have turned into liquid and flowed into his mouth at that moment. When he realized what had happened, he had already eaten it all. For 1 second, 2 seconds, Dick quietly felt the change in his body. A strong burning sensation came from his stomach as if what he had just swallowed was not a fruit, but flames, burning his internal organs and along his meridians. Dick coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was shocked. Was this divine blood fruit just a disguise? In fact, it was the most violent poison. No, it shouldn't be possible. This should only be the process of absorption, and one must hold on. Dick endured the burning pain in his heart and tried his best to walk under the ancient tree of life. Before he could correct himself, he fell down straight. He took a deep breath of the aura from the ancient tree, trying to use this pure breath to purify the surging flames in his body. But that was not enough. Although the flames brought by the divine blood fruit were restrained to a certain extent, there were still mottled marks on Dick's skin. This was a sign that his body could no longer withstand the impact of a huge force. Flesh-strengthening talent activated. Dick used his talent to fight against the boiling sacred blood while grabbing the fallen leaves of the ancient tree and stuffing them into his mouth. The incomparably cool life energy flowed down his throat, like a clear spring pouring into the boiling meridians. Even though the blood caused by the divine blood fruit was boiling fiercely, it was still bred by the ancient tree of life. The aura of the ancient tree of life was the best tranquilizer for it. The two kinds of energy were constantly neutralized and adjusted in Dick's body as if two fierce beasts were fighting with each other. Although Dick's body was no longer in danger of exploding, under the fight of these two forces, Dick felt that his consciousness was gradually fading away as if his entire soul had sunk into his body with the collision of the two forces. During the collision of the two kinds of energy, Dick's experience point grew rapidly. It only took him half an hour to break through the LV11. But it was too late for Dick to be happy. He lost consciousness and fell asleep. The ancient tree began to shake slightly, and layers of fallen leaves fell slowly on Dick's body, completely covering his body. Although it was an open area, no magical beasts dared to kill because of the protection of the ancient tree of life. Normally, even if there were magical beasts hunting their prey, they would not dare to kill here, let alone rush in to hunt Dick who had fallen under the ancient tree of life. After a long time, Dick finally woke up. He shook his head and surprisingly found that he was in a good mental state. It seemed that he was not in a coma, but had a good sleep. What surprised Dick more was that his simulation skill hadn't been cancelled and he was still Wareth. Looking at the thick leaves on his body, he couldn't help but touch the ancient tree of life gently. So you helped me keep my energy. Thank you so much. The ancient tree seemed to have telepathy as it gently shook its branches, emitting a gentle emotion. By the way, since I have woken up, I should have succeeded in absorbing the divine blood fruit, right? Thinking of this, Dick quickly opened the personal information panel. As expected, a prompt popped up as soon as he opened the panel. Hint. Congratulations on your successful absorption of the divine blood fruit. 0.1% of your blood has been transformed into divine blood. Note. With divine blood, you can attach divinity to a specific skill. It can suppress all creatures without divinity. This effect came from the superior plane, and could not be regarded as a negative effect by talent. Succeed. He actually made it. This 0.1% probability really made him meet it. Looking at the prompt on the board, Dick couldn't help but pinch his face hard. The pain made Dick's last uncertain feeling disappear. He was finally sure that he was not dreaming, but really holding the 0.1% chance. It was the blood of God. Perhaps it was the blood of the God who created this killing world and brought them here. Not to mention 0.1%, even 0.01% was incomparably precious. 26 Chapter 26 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not to mention that 0.1% of the divine blood had a suppressive effect on the superior plane. The suppressive effect of the divine blood was strong because it could not be regarded as a negative effect by talent. Dick had the flesh-strengthening talent, which could avoid negative effects. If it was an ordinary suppressive effect, as long as the opponent had similar talent and skills, he could easily avoid it. However, the suppressive effect of the divine blood could not be immune to talent or skill. In other words, as long as Dick infused divine blood into his skill, his opponent would definitely be affected by the effect. Moreover, with the help of divine blood, this suppressive effect would only be stronger. Looking at his status bar, Dick suddenly had an illusion as if it had been a lifetime. He didn't know how long he had slept, but his level had actually risen by one level, which was only 500 experience points less than LV12. It was too shocking. In the first section of the list, Edward had just risen to LV13, and he was the only one who had risen to LV13 in the number 1002548 Green, Hand Village. Although Jax and Lely were about to reach LV13, there was still a gap. About Mundo, according to the latest progress, the last time he announced his level, it seemed that it was not far from LV14. What surprised Dick more was that he had slept for 4 days. According to the actual situation, the day after tomorrow would be the official challenging gambler. There were hundreds of messages in his message bar. In addition to all kinds of trading messages, Edward sent him more than 100 messages. Most of the messages were about Dick's status. Perhaps it was because Dick had disappeared for too long that Edward was also very nervous. In the 1 or 2 days before he woke up, Edward sent a message to him almost every 1 or 2 hours. "Well, I'm fine. Something happened before, so I haven't replied." "What's wrong? Is there anything wrong?" Dick thought for a while and sent a message to Edward. After all, they were on the same side now. "Great. You're finally back. I've been sending messages to both you and Weirith these days. If these 2 names hadn't disappeared from the ranking list, I would have thought that you had already." Edward replied quickly with uncontrollable surprise in his tone. It seemed that this might be the last time he could relax before the battle. "Well, let's stop talking about this. I have something important to tell you. All the things you asked us to refine for you have been refined. If you have time, we can meet and I'll hand them over to you face to face." Hearing Edward's words, Dick suddenly remembered that he had given all the skins of the magical beasts to Edward and asked him to help him refine a full set of armor shoes. However, many things happened these days because of Mundo. He had never asked Edward for it. "Okay. When?" "I'm in the fog forest now." "Where are you?" Edward quickly sent a location. Dick looked at it and was surprised. He didn't expect that Edward was also in the fog forest, and he was not far away from him. "Can you come here alone? You know that I'm using the identity of Weirith now. It's not good if it is seen and exposed." Confronting Dick's demand, Edward agreed without hesitation. Dick carefully collected some leaves on the ground and bowed to the ancient tree of life. Then he rushed into the forest as fast as lightning. What? Do you really want to see him alone? Don't you know his nature? He is an irresponsible bastard. What did he do when it came to the life and death of the whole Green Hand village? He did nothing. Elena shouted indignantly. Wairith is just of LV0. Why does he need so much equipment? I refined the equipment in order to help you upgrade better and win the challenging gambler. I don't want to give it to a guy with only LV0. Edward forced a smile. He had lost a lot of weight in the past few days. He had hunted the magical beasts for several days. Even with the energy and blood vitality provided by these magical beasts, also energy from the roasted meat, he still looked haggard. Well, Elena, stop it. I have my own plan on this matter, and he said that he would pay, right? Anyway, it's break time now, so it's good for me to go there. After all, a large part of our equipment and materials were bought from him at a low price. Elena snorted and looked away. Anyway, after you give it to him, he will sell it out soon. What you want to do won't be stopped by me. You can go if you want. But you must come back before sunset. Edward reached out and stroked Elena's hair. Then he turned around and walked into the forest. Wairith, here I am. Where are you? Edward shouted. The next moment, he suddenly felt a cold wind on his back, which made him sweat. He was now at the highest level of Green Hand Village. Logically speaking, no one would be able to approach him so quietly. Unless it's not a person, but a magical beast. When he was about to attack, he heard Dick's voice behind him. You came on time. But if you challenge Mundo like this, you're courting death. Edward breathed a sigh of relief and relaxed. He turned his head and looked at Dick helplessly. It's scary. But I'm curious. How many levels have you reached now? How can you come behind me without my noticing? Dick shrugged his shoulders. He still trusted Edward, so he didn't intend to hide anything from him. It's just LV11, but it's not too far from LV12. Edward's mouth was wide open in surprise. He pointed at Dick with one finger, unable to speak for a long time. After a long time, he finally sighed. Well, now I know what you mean by saying that at the beginning. We got to the current level with the help of everyone, but in fact, our combat effectiveness is not as good as yours. It's indeed a little frustrating. 27 Chapter 27 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you know the situation about Mundo? There are only 2 days left. According to his custom, he will announce his level soon, right? Dick asked Edward. Edward smiled bitterly, shook his head, and sighed, Dovco, we don't know. Although someone has been watching number 1002546 Green Hand Village for 24 hours a day, since yesterday, Mundo has never posted his level information. He only said that he would definitely win, so he has to keep a secret. Edward looked upset and Dick frowned. Although the two Green Hand Villages chat channels were connected, they couldn't see each other's ranking, nor could they be sure what level the other had reached. What about the other two? Did they hide their level like Mundo? No, those two people are unexpectedly high. Profile. Both of them are LV12, but they are very close to LV13. They should raise to LV13 the day after tomorrow when they fight. Edward said, sighing and rubbing his forehead. That's a big problem. I'm the only LV13. Even if we try our best and have an adventure, we can reach LV14 at most on the competition day. But we are not sure what level Mundo will reach at that time. The growth of Oryx's level is too slow. His talent has restricted his growth. Now, at most, Jax and Lely can only reach LV13. In the competition of overall combat effectiveness, we are still too weak. Dick looked at Edward in silence for a few seconds. He didn't say anything until Edward calmed down a little. This challenging gambler is also related to my personal interest. I can't let you lose like this. I hope you can explain the situation to Jax or Lely and let me replace one of them. Dick's thought was simple. He was definitely one of the strongest 3 people in the Green Hand Village now. He just needed to replace one of the weaker between Lely and Jax. Edward thought for a while and shook his head. No, you don't need to change the 2 of them. I have my own considerations. Edward whispered in Dick's ear. Dick was surprised. He didn't expect that Edward would say something like that. He looked at Edward hesitantly and said, "Have you really decided to do so? Can you trust me so much that I can do it?" Edward laughed and patted Dick on the shoulder with a trusting smile. "If you can't do it, I think no one can do it in number 1002548 Green Hand Village." He put a ring in Dick's hand. This is a grade .2 item, a storage ring. It can provide 5 cubic meters of space. All the things I refined for you are in it. Compared with the backpack, the things in the storage ring won't be rotten. I think it should be useful to you. Edward said as he took a few steps back and gave a salute. I trust you. Now it's time for me to go back. I've been out for too long, and others will worry about me. Seeing Edward's figure disappear in the fog forest, Dick couldn't help smiling bitterly. What a noble and great man. But it's really a heavy burden. Dick put away the storage ring and returned to the ancient tree of life with a few ups and downs. Opening the space inside the ring, as expected, he saw the full set of armors and shoes that Edward had promised him. When he took them out, Dick's face changed. According to the deal he made with Edward before, he only needed to use the LV8 magical beast skin. But this set of armor and shoes obviously used the LV11 magical beast skin. Savage Bear Suit. It is made of the Savage Bear's outer armor, arms armor, and legs armor, and is produced from the LV11 magical beast, Bloody-Dead-Eyed Savage Bear. Grade 2. Defense plus 30, Blood Vitality plus 100, Strength plus 50. The set of skills. Bear Protection. Bear Protection. Release the force field around your body in 3 seconds to hit everything away. Time of cooling down. 5 minutes. Butterfly Boots. Produced from the LV11 magical beast, Black-Wing Butterfly. Grade 2. Agility plus 40. Skill. Butterfly Wings. Butterfly Wings. You can fly in 10 seconds, which will increase with your level. Time of cooling down. 5 minutes. These were all the skills and properties of the equipment that Edward had given him. Undoubtedly, they could definitely make people jealous and crazy. Not only did it provide an attribute that far exceeded the normal weapons, but it also had a very specialized skill, not to mention a skill that could enable people to obtain the ability to fly. In number 1002548 Green Hand Village, there was a person whose talent was gliding. He could only transform into wings to maintain balance and could not really fly. Even so, his talent rating had reached C. But now, this skill could make people really acquire the ability to fly. If the rating was really based on talent, he would definitely be able to surpass level B or even reach level A. Dick even wondered if the equipment was actually used by Edward himself, but because of the plan he told him, he gave it to him. Dick took a deep breath, patted his face, and slowly put on the equipment. Don't worry. Since you trust me so much and hand over the fate of everyone to me, I will never fail your trust. He suddenly grinned. Well, now I admit that you are my friend. My friend, I hope you can withstand the pressure there. Before making everyone shocked, you don't have to break down first. As soon as Dick finished his words, the skill of butterfly wings was activated in an instant. With his extremely high agility score, his body suddenly turned into a beam of light and rushed into the fog forest. Before the giant magical beast could react, a beam of light appeared in front of it in an instant. It wanted to roar and attack, but it was too late. It only felt a chill on its neck, and the world in front of it suddenly became dizzy. In its last sight, there was only its body without a head left. It was an LV-11 magical beast. But under the light of Dick, it didn't even have an effective resistance. Its head was cut off by a sharp blade and died in an instant. 28 Chapter 28 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Announcement. 10 days have passed. The challenging gambler begins. The central arena was about to open, and both sides could send 100 people as representatives. At the same time, the battle scene would be broadcast on the chat channel. The highest level in green, hand village of both sides, please enter the duel arena and decide the order of the 3 competitors to challenge and the order of appearance. A golden light shone on Edward. He rose slowly and flew towards the huge floating island in the sky. Edward looked for Dick in the crowd. When he saw the face of Wayreth standing at the end of the line, he smiled with relief. Will you remember our agreement? Although Dick didn't hear Edward's voice, he knew that Edward must be asking him this question. So he nodded at Edward, indicating that he hadn't forgotten. When Edward arrived at the huge floating island in the sky, he found that there was actually only a huge arena on this floating island. The seats for the audience were distributed on both sides, and there were exactly 100 seats. He saw a tall man on the other side of the boundary. No, it was more like a beast than a person. He was very tall and looked about 3 meters tall. He had gray hair all over his body, and even most of his face was hidden in the hair. A murderous look flashed in his blood-red eyes. When he saw Edward walking towards him, there was a trace of thirsty blood in his eyes. Ha! How dare you come here? Don't worry. If I meet you in the arena, I will definitely drink up your blood. Mundo licked his lips and showed his sharp teeth. He didn't act like a human at all. He was like a beast. Even if my blood enters your body, I will tear you apart from inside. Edward said calmly. Facing Mundo's threat, he didn't even move his eyes. On the contrary, after hearing Edward's words, Mundo was furious and rushed over to tear Edward apart. However, there was an invisible barrier between the two of them. When Mundo's body hit it, he quickly bounced back like a ball. Please confirm the list and order of the challenge. The mysterious voice fell again. In front of Edward and Mundo, there was a plate projected, and the sound between them was completely isolated. Mundo finished writing the board very soon. He gave Edward a cruel smile and made a gesture of contempt with his thumb down. Then he disappeared in the light. After that, Edward also finished his. He fixed his eyes on it and smiled with relief. What does Mundo look like? How does he? Who will show up here? What's the order? Who are we going to choose among these 100 people? Is there any meaning for us to choose 100 people according to that mysterious voice? When they saw Edward come back, they all asked curiously. Be quiet. Listen to me. With Edward's voice, everyone quieted down. They looked at Edward seriously, waiting for him to continue. I've already seen Mundo. He's a very dangerous guy. I can't see through his strength. The order of appearance is Lely, Jax, and I. The person whose name I have mentioned goes up with me. Soon, 100 people came together. To everyone's surprise, the last name Edward ordered was a man of LV0. Edward, winner. After everyone shouted in unison, a huge platform descended from the sky. It was not until these 100 people stood on it that this platform slowly rose and brought everyone to the arena. Why do you want to be the last one? You are the strongest. If you are the first one to fight, you can definitely beat someone. Jax frowned and asked Edward in a low voice. No, Mundo will definitely be the last one to show up. He looked at me provocatively. If I were the first one to show up, although I could win one, you would definitely be dead if you fight against Mundo. If I fight with Mundo, even if I fail in the end, I won't die. I'm stronger than you, and you should admit that. Edward said slowly. Hearing his gentle voice, Jax felt that there seemed to be something hidden in it. But now that they had come to the arena, it was inconvenient for him to ask more. To their surprise, there was only Mundo and his two companions standing in the arena of number 1002546 Green, Hand Village opposite them, and there was no one in the grandstand. Dick activated the Eyes of God to see what the talents of the three people opposite them were so that he could be prepared in advance. However, when his sight hit the barrier in the middle, it returned a cold message. World Rule Barrier Blocking Detection. Eyes of God is not qualified to detect. Dick frowned. This was a little troublesome. The invincible Eyes of God failed at this time. It seemed that the rules of the world were forcibly maintaining the balance between the challenge. Unless they really stood on the battle ring and fought with each other, the talents of both sides would not work on each other. You're finally here with so many people. What a coward. A real strong man doesn't need the help of those ants, because they only deserve to crawl on the ground and look up at the majesty of the sky. Mundo laughed and said to Edward. Please enter the arena. The first challenge will begin in 2 minutes. With the notice of the mysterious voice, Mundo went back to the grandstand. There was only a thin man left in the arena. As for Dick and others, Lely took a deep breath and strode out. I will tear you apart. The thin man licked his lips and announced. Countdown, 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. The battle began. The barrier disappeared in an instant. The thin man moved his body and disappeared into the arena, like smoke, without any trace. Nav-OM at that moment, Dick also saw clearly the talent of the opponent, the level.B talent, wings. The ability to make people fly. 29 Chapter 29 You are listening at novelfull.audio. LV13, this was the level of that thin man, just the same as Lely. But because of the existence of the level.B talent wings, the current situation on the field was obviously disadvantageous to Lely. The thin man seemed to have disappeared from the stage. Everyone could only hear the sound of blades piercing through the air, but they could not find where the man was. BDNV, ha. It seems that we can win the first round very soon. Toby's talent can give his an extremely fast speed of moving. Even if I want to keep up with him, it is a little reluctant. It seems that person is in trouble. Mundo said proudly, looking at the situation on the stage triumphantly. Mundo, you are smart. It seems that they really want to test our strength in the first round. It's just a matter of time for Toby to win this round. Standing behind Mundo, the fat middle-aged man said with a flattering smile. Willie. You have to remember that if Toby wins, you just need to admit defeat as soon as possible. I must let Edward, the arrogant guy, know how powerful I am. Blood is delicious for such a guy. Mundo looked down at Willie. He licked his lips cruelly and looked at Edward, who was standing in the front of the opposite line. Oh, my friend, it seems that the winner will be decided soon. I'm really looking forward to meeting you at the final. Don't forget what I said. Your blood is already mine. Edward turned a blind eye to Mundo's provocation and kept his eyes on the arena. With his insight, he could only barely catch up with Toby's speed. Even so, it was impossible to tell whether it was the afterimage of Toby running far away or the real body of Toby. Dick could see where Toby was, but he was not relaxed at all. Now there were 7 Toby's doppelgangers flying in the arena, including the real Toby. While activating his own talent, Toby also activated a skill at the same time, which provided him 7 doppelgangers with 20% attack power of his real body. He whispered to Edward. Edward, has this rule said that everyone can only play 1 round? Edward turned to look at Dick and nodded at him. That's good. Jax is not good at fast fighting. If this guy can fight 1 rounder, we will lose, Edward sighed and asked. What can you do? Can you help Lowly? I can feel that the guy is about to launch an attack. I'm afraid. Dick looked at Edward reassuringly. He took a deep breath and began to search for his own talent. I got an idea. The level F talent telepathy. Dick got this talent from a corpse. He came and went alone all the time, so this talent was put in the useless column by him. But he didn't expect that it would come in handy here. Lowly, can you hear me? I'm Wareth. Don't panic. Don't show your weakness. Next, I'll command you to find out the trace of that guy. Telepathy was the level F talent, which effect was limited. It could transmit one's voice to the ears of the designated object. Since it was only a level F talent, there was no space for improvement. Fortunately, Lely's current position was not in the center of the arena, but on the side close to Dick, so that he could barely reach him with the telepathy. Lely's whole body trembled violently, which was very fatal in the battle, but he quickly adjusted it. He didn't take it easy. He was also trying to confirm whether Dick's command was correct. After all, they were in a battle, and no one could be sure whether the voice was a trap for them. No, you need to trust me. The herbs you identified for me a few days ago were. After resisting Toby's attack several times, Dick keenly sensed the distrust in Lely's actions, so he quickly threw out this information that only he and Lely knew. Lely was taken aback. Then he let go of his thoughts and devoted himself to the cooperation with Dick. With a heavy hammer in his hand, under the command of Dick, each hammer ran towards Toby's body with a clap of loud thunder. Toby's weapon was only two short daggers, which were especially refined to match his speed, but in the face of the heavy hammer, he looked small and fragile, which made him dare not to fight against Lely. He could only rely on his own speed to move. Damn it! What the hell is Toby doing? Does he want to lose in the first round? Willie roared angrily. In his eyes, Toby didn't do his best at all. It seemed that he was deliberately giving the opponent a chance. Toby, on the other hand, was suffering a lot. For some reason, the enemy seemed to have seen through everything. No matter how hard he tried to hide, he could always tell the direction of the real attack from his fast speed and doppelgangers. This was something he couldn't imagine in the previous battles. More importantly, as time went by, he could no longer maintain the high speed movement he had at the beginning. With the guidance of Dick, Lely had been passively defending all the time. Moreover, he had the natural advantage of weapons. It was simply waiting for work with ease. Toby could not stand it anymore. No, I can't lose. That's it. This will be the last blow I gamble with all my strength. Toby thought to himself. His body twisted like a whirlwind, and his wings twisted like blades. Skill. Angel falling. Lowly. Upper left. Go all out. Toby and Dick's voices sounded almost at the same time. Without any hesitation, Lely waved his hammer to the left. Thunder controlling, thunder killing. A thunderbolt gushed out from the heavy hammer in Lely's hand. In an instant, the arena turned into a sea of thunder. At the same time, Toby's angel fell, along with his doppelgangers. He crashed into the surging lightning. We won. Dick replied. A shrill scream came from the surging sea of thunder as if something had suddenly shattered. Then, in the dazzling thunder, it seemed to have been stained with a thick layer of blood. 30 Chapter 30 You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the first round, Toby lost his battle ability. The number 1002548 Green, Hand Village, Lely won. As the mysterious voice slowly faded away, the dazzling lightning in the arena also slowly dispersed. Everyone's eyes followed the figure standing in the arena, and they couldn't help but burst into cheers. Lely's hair was a little messy, but his eyes were shining with a dazzling light. He carried a body covered with blood. That was Toby. And a pair of bloody wings was dragged behind him, apparently broken. Humph. Loser. Mundo snorted coldly. He strode onto the stage and grabbed Toby's body from Lowly's hand. Then under the shocked eyes of the crowd, with a crack, Toby's neck was broken. Then he bit Toby's neck and sucked in Toby's blood. The air seemed to be frozen. Only Mundo's terrible swallowing echoed in the arena. In no time, Toby carried by Mundo turned into a mummy, while Mundo showed a bloody smile to Lowly. He casually threw Toby's body aside and strode back. "Hey, you have to win the next round. Do you hear me? If you lose, I will let you taste the pain of losing blood before death." Mundo grabbed Willie's neck and glared at him with his blood-red eyes. Willie's eyes were full of fear, with the protrusion caused by Mundo's pinch. Under the pressure of Mundo, he nodded immediately, unable to say a complete sentence. Lowly returned to Dick and others. His face was pale. He was so close to him just now that the blood even sprayed on his face. "Are you okay?" Jax asked with concern. "I'm fine. It's just a little disgusting. That guy is simply not a human," Lowly said with his head down, trying hard not to vomit. "That guy is not a human. He is just a beast. Jax, you have to be careful next time. The middle-aged fat man opposite doesn't look simple." Dick whispered in Jax's ear as he approached him. "I will help you. My talent is related to this. Trust me." Jax was stunned for a moment. Obviously, he didn't trust Wayreth he had never seen before. But when he saw the expression on Lowly's face, he nodded. "The second challenge, warriors, please go to the arena." The mysterious voice fell from the sky. Jax nodded to the people behind him and walked onto the arena. The fat middle-aged man on the other side had a ferocious expression on his face. This fellow's fat face made this ferocious expression a little funny, but even so, his aura was still extremely surging. Countdown, 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. The battle began. As the countdown ended, the barrier in the middle of the arena disappeared. Dick also saw the information about the fat man. Willie, LV-14, talent. Level C, Fog. LV-14. In addition to Mundo, there was a second LV-14 in the number 1002546 green, Hand Village. Besides, the fat man hadn't reached LV-14 when they exposed his level last time. "Damn it. Jax, run!" Dick shouted, regardless of his talent for telepathy. Although he heard Dick's voice, Jax didn't have time to respond. Willie took a deep breath, which was enough to make his stomach swell. Then he tried his best to spit out a large mouthful of smoke toward Jax. In an instant, the whole arena was covered by the gray fog. Even Dick's eyes of God couldn't accurately see the position of Jax through the fog. Talent restraint. The word popped up in Dick's mind all of a sudden. Willie could restrain the investigation. No wonder Dick couldn't see the specific value of him just now. In an instant, Jax's situation fell into an emergency. He was in a fog and couldn't see clearly what was happening around him. Even when he lowered his head, he couldn't see the ground under his feet clearly. Ha, that's great. You have been one of the countless people who fell into my trap. I was worried that I wouldn't have the chance to make a move. It seems that both of us are very lucky. Willie's voice echoed in his ears, but the latter could not find his position at all. A sharp pain came from Jax's abdomen, and blood spurted out in an instant. He let out a painful cry. He swung his fist backward, trying to hit Willie, but the power and the smoke seemed to have completely integrated into the air. The punch was so soft that it didn't hit anything. He coughed up blood from his mouth and barely supported his body with his own weapon. He stumbled through the mist, trying to find the exit, but he was completely unable to tell the direction. A sharp pain came from his body continuously, and the blood almost dyed him into a bloody man. He didn't fall down because he was supported by a peace of mind. However, human physical strength was limited. In this kind of environment, he could not find his enemy at all and could only constantly lose blood. Finally, his body fell to the ground, and the rest of his blood vitality could no longer support his movements. Damn it! I didn't even meet him in the end. Edward, all my hopes are on you. You must win. Jax thought painfully, seeing his blood vitality gradually drop to 0. In the second round, Jax died. The number 1002546, Green, Hand Village, Willie won. The fog dissipated, and a bloody corpse fell on the arena, while Willie stood on it guffawing. Fuck. He killed him. Revenge. Edward, revenge for him. We must win. Let's fight them to death. Let's kill them now. Lely has shown mercy, but he actually killed him. The crowd of number 1002548 Green, Hand Village became excited. If there was no barrier to stop them, they would rush up and tear up Willie right now. The third challenge begins in 10 minutes.